And this podcast was brought to you guys by Anchor. If you guys haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast for no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And with that being said, go download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Peace. Welcome back to the Medina podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Today I want to talk about the upcoming bear market. That's what we're going to talk about today. But before we start, Apple just hit $2 trillion valuation, which I think is crazy. You know, some of these tech stuff have been roaring. In one of my other podcasts, I've been talking about how, you know, in CNBC, they keep coming on there and saying, hey, listen, we only have 5 stocks that are driving up the Standard & Poor's 500, which is Microsoft, Facebook, Apple, Google, and Amazon. These 5 companies, ladies and gentlemen, are the only reason these indexes are flying high. And for any of you that don't know, all an index is just, you know, taking the best 500 companies and then just pulling them together and tracking them over a period of time. And out of 500 companies, these are the only 5 companies that are just driving this index up. And this is what I've been trying to tell people, that, you know, all these companies are rising because of the circumstances. But, you know, what other people are not realizing is that all the other 500 companies are struggling. They're completely struggling. And the reason they're struggling is obviously, you know, COVID. But also what I wanted to tell people is that these companies are highly leveraged. If you go on their balance sheets and you look, a lot of them are stacked up with debt. And the problem with this is that when you have companies that are stacked up with debt, and then comes, you know, a bad situation like Corona, now you're stacked up with debt. Your, you know, revenue has been cut off by half or maybe even 2/3. Now you can't even pay your debt down. So what happens? What happens is that sooner or later, if the situation doesn't get any better, you know, you're going to have to file for bankruptcy. You know, a lot of these automotive companies already went and started having to get their credit from the banks. I think GM right away had $19 million for recession saved up, you know, just to take care of investors. As soon as Corona hit, they had to call that up. And why is that? Because some of these companies are cyclical and they're highly leveraged. So as soon as a bad time comes, you know, they're just getting decimated. And then that's what you're seeing in the Standard & Poor's 500. You know, big tech keeps getting bigger. All the 5 other remaining 500 companies are doing bad. And sooner or later, what's going to happen is this bubble's going to pop. The market will correct themselves. And it's going to be a bad time for investors. And then I want to get to another point here, is that sooner or later, when the stock market does correct themselves and there's a bear market, there's going to be fire sales. Because what people are not understanding is that the Standard & Poor's 500, ladies and gentlemen, right now, it's alarm to what's coming. And what's coming is that there's a lot of companies right now that are highly leveraged. And sooner or later, when this situation keeps up, and these companies are basically like a person standing on a cliff, sooner or later, all it needs is just one situation to push these companies off the cliff. And sooner or later, they're going to have to file for bankruptcy. So what you're going to see in the stock market is just a huge bear market. But for investors, that's a huge opportunity, you know, to start racking up. There's going to be a complete fire sale soon, what I believe. And the reason for this is that capitalism works, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, capitalism works. And sooner or later, Mr. Market will come to correct himself. So this is what I'm telling people. Don't be deceived by what Wall Street is telling you. You know, pay attention. The Standard & Poor's 500 is an alarm. You know, Jim Cramer was on, you know, CNBC. I think it was today or yesterday, talking about, hey, you know, the Standard & Poor's 500 keeps rising, but it's only because of 5 stocks, and this is very, very worrisome because who knows the condition the economy can be once this thing crashes. And what I keep also telling people is that the Fed is going to continue to pump more money. So investors nowadays need to be very aware of the current state of the stock market, because it's an indicator to what's coming. When you go outside of your house and you guys look and you see all these businesses closed down, but yet stocks keep going up, that's an indicator right there that there's something wrong and something bad is coming. Like, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that's pretty much it. I'm not a person who obviously just wants to just be all doom and gloom, but that's just really the fact of the matter. We're not always going to be living in great times, and we're living through bad times, and unfortunately it's going to get a lot worse, because sooner or later the Fed pumping all this money is going to devalue our dollar, and it's sooner or later not going to be able to buy you anything. So with that being said, I'm going to advocate what I've always been advocating, which is what? Gold and silver are next up in asset allocations, which are going to be doing the best. They're the ones that are going to be on Wall Street every day. They're the ones that are going to be on everyone's mind, like, hey, it's going to be another gold rush. Because every time there's a bad time in America, that's the only asset class that people rely on. In 2008, it tripled in value. And ever since Nixon took us off the gold standard, gold has went from $35 an ounce to $2,000 an ounce just recently. So that's another indicator saying, hey, listen, we're going to go on another bull run in gold and silver, and this is not going to stop anytime soon from my prediction. So keep your eyes out for that, and I just wanted to keep it at that for today's podcast. I'm not, trying to overwhelm people. I'm just trying to, spread awareness, give people the news and the media, and of course the truth. So, investors, protect yourself, be aware of what's going on in the stock market, because it's an indicator that bad times ahead, and Mr. Market will correct himself, but it's also an opportunity to prepare for the fire sale that's coming. So with that being said, thank you for getting on the podcast and hearing me out. Spread the news. Much love to everyone that's showing me love. Till next time.